Stop trying to sow discord. Could.
Officer Lee glared at Kia Jajin, speaking very sternly.
You're a loan shark, and I'm a police officer. Who do you think everyone will believe?
Kia glanced at the noisy crowd. He knew Officer Lee probably wasn't lying. He really was a detective. But his approach was wrong. Perhaps due to professional instinct or a sense of justice. He kept trying to organize everyone in an orderly manner. The halftime break was more than halfway over, and the crowd gradually fell silent. During this time, Kia Shah had repeated the phrase, "My name is Li Ming," in his mind countless times, to the point where it was starting to annoy him. After all, he had been sitting next to a corpse with a shattered skull, making it impossible to stay calm. Blood dripped from the table onto the floor, and the group had been sharing the room with the corpse for nearly an hour. A strange, foul smell began to permeate the air. Kia glanced casually at the corpse beside him. Its pants were already filthy. Shortly after death, the body's organs lose muscular control, leading to incontinence. Before the stench of decay fully set in, a putrid odor had already filled the room. Kia, Shaya, and another girl sat on either side of the corpse. The girl seemed particularly bothered by the smell, constantly covering her nose and mouth with her hand. Another 10 minutes passed before the goat-headed figure finally spoke.
The 20-minute halftime break is over. The game will now resume.
The young man named Han Yimo, who had spoken earlier, steadied himself, took a deep breath, and said,
My name is Han Yimo, and I'm an online novelist. Before coming here, I was in my rented apartment writing the finale of a novel. Since the book features over 100 characters, almost all of them needed to appear in the ending. I was so focused on writing that I didn't notice anything happening outside. In fact, I don't even know when the earthquake happened or when I lost consciousness.
Han Yimo's story was different from everyone else's. So far, he seemed completely independent, and his account ended abruptly after just a few sentences.
That's it.
The burly man asked, slightly stunned.
You're just going to say, I don't know, and call it a day.
Since I can't lie, there's no need for me to fabricate an answer just to please everyone.
Han Yemo replied, though his voice was soft. It carried an inexplicable air of credibility.
All right, next.
Officer Lee said, still skeptical.
It's the lady's turn now.
Hey, cop!
Kia Jajin said, clearly dissatisfied with Officer Lee's attitude.
We're all participants here. Don't act like you're the captain.
Someone has to step up and organize everyone.
Officer Lee argued.
I've already said, if there's only one enemy among us, the remaining 8 need to stick together.
But that doesn't mean you get to call the shots.
Kia Jajin shot back, completely dismissing Officer Lee's words.
Outside, I might be afraid of you. But in this situation, who knows if you're the liar?
Enough, both of you.
The aloof woman interrupted. From the beginning, she had accused the goat-headed figure of imprisoning them for 24 hours, appearing calm and logical. Seeing the two men quiet down, she continued.
In this so-called game, no matter who wins in the end, the rest of us might be seen as indirect murderers. After all, it was our collective vote that led to the goat-headed figure killing him. That's what you all should be considering.
Hearing this, Kisha's expression shifted slightly. If he really managed to survive and leave this room, he would indeed have killed the other 8 people. But what could he do? The card in front of him was a genuine liar, who would willingly give up their own life to let others live.
My name is Zhang Chen's, and I'm a lawyer.
The aloof woman said, her arms crossed and her face expressionless.
It's unfortunate to meet all of you in such a bizarre place. Otherwise, I would have handed out my business cards.
Others didn't. Seemed to understand her humor, but she didn't seem to care.
Before coming here, I was preparing court documents. My client had been scammed out of 2 million yuan, a case involving a significant amount of money and serious implications.
When she mentioned 2 million, most of the group remained unfazed. But Kia Jiazhen visibly reacted.
2 million?
He asked.
Yes, 2 million. People say lawyers are the most impartial and selfless. But we have our own concerns too. The man took out a high-interest loan to support his family, which is worrying. But illegal lending is a separate case and has nothing to do with me. When the earthquake hit, I was driving to meet my client. I was on Qingyang Avenue, just past Dufu's thatched cottage, near Wuhu Shrine. I remember I wasn't driving fast, about 40 miles per hour, when suddenly I saw the road ahead crack open. I slammed on the brakes and stopped just before the fissure. But the car behind me couldn't stop in time, causing a chain collision. All I heard were a few loud bangs before my car was pushed into the crack. Then I blacked out and ended up here.
With that, another story concluded. Only 3 people remained who hadn't shared their accounts yet.
Woohoo! Shrine.
Dao Zhao pondered for a moment.
Is that the Wuhu Shrine in Chengdu?
Yes, I work in Chengdu.
It seemed the earthquake had affected the entire country, with so many unfamiliar stories. Figuring out who was lying was proving to be incredibly difficult.
Now, it's my turn.
Officer Li said, looking around at the group.
I've already mentioned my name earlier. I'm Li Shanggu, a detective from Inner Mongolia. Before coming here, I was staking out a fraudster. According to reliable information, we had pinpointed the suspect's exact location. This suspect was involved in a massive fraud case, amounting to 2 million yuan, the largest fraud case our city has seen this year. My colleague and I had been monitoring the suspect from our car, waiting for him to show up, but the suspect was smarter than we anticipated. He seemed to sense danger and didn't show his face for 3 straight days. We spent those 3 days eating, sleeping, and relieving ourselves in the car. Our nerves were frayed. But do you know what's even worse? For a grown man then, running out of food and water, running out of cigarettes. Neither of us had a single cigarette left. In principle, we couldn't leave our post, but the agony of not having a smoke was unbearable. So I sent my colleague to run and buy some cigarettes, while I kept a close eye on the suspect's residence. But what I didn't expect was that shortly after my colleague left, the ground began to shake violently. I wanted to get out of the car to see what was happening, but suddenly, someone strangled me from behind with a thin wire. Even though we're trained in close combat, the wire coming from the back seat was hard to deal with. I couldn't reach the person behind me, nor could I remove the wire from my neck.
At this point, everyone glanced at Officer. Leah noticed a red mark on his neck.
So, I quickly reclined the seat to regain my breath, but I couldn't turn around because my legs were stuck under the steering wheel. Given my tall frame, the person behind me took advantage of my prone position and hit me hard on the head with something. That's when I lost consciousness.
After hearing Officer Lee's story, the group couldn't help but grow suspicious. His account was entirely different from the others. Before him, all the participants had lost consciousness due to accidents. He was the only one who claimed to have been attacked before ending up here. If they had to pick the most suspicious person among them, wouldn't it be him?